that show that you are dominant, you're one of the best colleges out there in that field, I think that's the best way to play.
Oh, dude, they just want to break, they want to get away, they just want to recline on the beaches with the drinks in hands, but we'll have to wait for the moment.
They're not in California, they're somewhere else. They're on the East Coast. How could they relax on the beaches?
This is the north.
Well, okay, northeast coast. It's
either way. Right now we're on the cyberweb, so no drinks here just yet, but we do have some bans already banning away the Gnar from Misty Stumpy, as this has been one of his pinnacle champions up here.
Not to mention just one of the strongest top laners in the meta. I mean, sure, you could always play that Camille, and we know Misty Stumpy is someone who is a purveyor of those bruisers in the top lane. But I can understand that Lourdes are just like, no, we don't even want to mess with it. We don't even want to pick the Gnar. We're too afraid of the Gnar, the Camille, whatever can come out. So the rest of the bans looking pretty standard so far. Talia, a nice ban towards all arrow. You mentioned before, he's very proficient with that. Even Ezreal makes a lot of sense. And 2 jungle bans coming in. So try to see if they can make it so that they get the Skarner again from Bookzek, or maybe even the Olaf.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Skarner right now is the very clear pick and ban, and I would be very shocked to not see Hiami pick it up right here, right now, but they're going to opt for the Caitlyn once again, and this could mean a bit of a run back of last game strategy, of course, minus the early, but why would you ban away so many of the junglers if you're not even going to first pick the Skarner?
The Skarner, the Galio, that Julian already showed that he wants to pick early up. He's really confident with that. Even the Olaf, like,
and that's the counter to the Skarner. That's even playing another level. They're like on 40 chests already from Columbia College's side. Certainly, there are some more jungle picks out there. Knowing Hiami personally, I know he has the Rengar in his pocket. That's definitely been going through quite a few changes as of late. And if your game plan is just kill Evan RL, that is a very viable option. But
you have to run through an Olaf and a Galio with that Rengar. And that doesn't seem like something that actually would be physically possible. Instead, it seems that Lords want to get a mid laner for all arrow, and Cassiopeia, something that has become very powerful, especially with Archangel Staff being in the state it is right now.
Exactly. Archangel Staff has received a slight nerf on the 8.6 patch.
Okay,
this is a run back for Hiami, but the Archangels got reduced shielding, and honestly, that's not really why you take that item. You want the extra mana back, so nothing too crazy, and still being able to take the last chapter first item on Cassiopeia just enables more of that early game fighting, but Rek'Sai, yeah, Hiami needs to get something done early here on the gank pass.
He has to be aggressive early into this game. He needs to play into Bookzak's jungle, maybe even look for an early gank onto Evan RL. He's going to be on the Jhin once again, someone very immobile, but I want to see what Dean's going to end up picking, because that's something that really does dictate whether or not Hiami will be even able to get to the Jhin.
The Taric needs to be banned away here. It's almost not... I feel like it's just not negotiable unless you're going to try to pick it away, because with both a Galio and a Taric, there is so much defensive potential for that Jhin. And if you give over the Taric, sure, you can look to just abuse it through the laning phase, try to knock it down with these good picks, but if you do not get a solid advantage on that bottom side, you just don't have anything, and they let the Taric through.
Now, in the second rotation of the bans, though, 4 top laners were banned away. Jax, Poppy. I mean, sure, Jackson before was considered more of a jungler, but he's been transitioning back with Conqueror into the top lane. So Poppy, Camille, and Fiora really want to see if they're going to try to make it easy for Misty Stumpy. Get him that counter pick as they lock in the Morgana. So the Morgana Jhin bot lane.
Yeah, that already is very aggressive bot lane, but the Morgana also does give the extra bit of defense against the Rek'Sai, against the Cassiopeia. And with the extreme aggro on the bot side, with the Karma locked in on support, you need something big and beefy top lane, and that's exactly what they're going to take. But, I mean, if you're going to have the Scion, then the Gnar ban starts to come into question, and the pick and ban right now from Columbia College, from Lourdes rather, just seems so up in the air.
Well, you can still put that Galio into the top lane, which is kind of being theorized right now by Columbia as they were hovering that Zillion. But for me, it makes sense that you ban the Gnar when you want to get the Scion. He's really weak into that range, but I do respect this Gangplank instead as the answer from Misty Stumpy is he doesn't like to play those dog champs. Don't put him on the leash. He wants to be able to carry.
And this is actually a little bit of a greedy pickup here from Columbia College. And I mean, given last game, it's certainly within their rights to start flexing their muscles a little bit. But the Gangplank along with an Olaf Galio Jin really feels like a completely different team composition. And sure, the Gangplank will be an absolutely great thing to have in the laning phase. Sion, sure, he does have a lot of early poke with that Arcane Comet, but you're still Gangplank, so you're still going to be doing pretty alright. And of course, your focus is on this later stage of the game. But you don't have something that's really going to combo well in the early game with that Engage, with the Galio, with the Olaf, with the Jin once again. And it does put a little bit more pressure on those other 4 members to really get that ball rolling early.
Yeah, Misty Stumpy probably just going to try to see if he can farm away, but this does give a target for Hyami. That's the big thing for me, is he can now try to see if he can punish Misty Stumpy for taking the Gangplank, for being a little bit greedy in it to the Scion.
Whoa!
Granted that the Gangplank is really good into the Scion as it scales up into the game.
Wait.
But
I'm sorry, this is just so crazy that I need to call it out right now, because I want to know if this is a bug on my screen. Cassiopeia, Caitlyn, and Karma.
Yeah,
all taking cleanse.
I saw that too, and I actually don't think that it is. I think that's a way for them to get out of the Morgana bindings. They feel like that's going to be something that's going to be really important, that if they get hit by one of those, that they are dead.
Yeah, that is so incredibly conservative. And now, certainly you do have the Karma for the extra shielding in the bottom portion of the map, and not having a heal or a barrier against the Galio Olaf combo just feels so incredibly counterintuitive for me. I mean, sure, if they ever get hit by Morgana binding, like, game over, because they can just cleanse out of it, but wow, that's just so much defensive potential right there with the 3 summoner spells of all them being cleansed. So interesting to see. But now also going back to that point about Gangplank in the top lane, sure, it does give Hyami a point of contention. He can go gank that, but you almost got to wonder if that's a little bit of bait to take the attention off of Jin in the bot lane, take the attention off of Galio in the mid lane. Because, yeah, sure, you can get your Scion ahead, but how well is it actually going to hold up into the mid to late game?
I think it's more about just getting Hyami ahead at this point, trying to make sure that he's playing these early aggressive gank-oriented junglers, that he's actually able to do that. He's able to go for the win condition that is set in that champion.
That is true, and Rek'Sai, as of late, ever since her rework away from the full map control, she has turned it into a little bit more of a diving threat, a little bit more of an assassin, and if Rek'Sai does get ahead, that does mean so many issues for Evan RL's Jin. I mean, sure, you do get the defensiveness of Morgana away from some of the knockups of Rek'Sai, but you still have to deal with him just jumping on your face.
Exactly, and that's going to be the biggest thing. He's going to be able to jump on your face. He's going to be able to get the damage necessary on it to Evan RL. But now, let's move over towards Columbia College. Evan RL back onto the Jin, something that clearly is something that he likes to play, because he was absolutely dominating in game 1 with that. But how does that dynamic in the bot lane change with Morgana?
Well, it's really hard to tell based off of game 1, because game 1's bot lane just didn't happen. It's really going to depend on how much are those heal and ignite versus double cleanse going to impact the lane, because those are 2 combat summoners on the side of Columbia College, and Jin trades fairly evenly with Caitlyn in the laning phase. Surely Morgana does fall a little bit to Karma if Artemis is able to keep up that poke game, but if he's not able to put Evan RL behind himself, then there are going to be so many issues going into the actual fighting points, and all it takes is that one good lockdown, and that could just be the lane once again.
But this game, for me, the biggest thing is I want to make sure that Lourdes fan out. They set up the line of skirmish because we're getting ready to get into game 2 between these 2 squads, the semi-finals for College LOL. You gotta make sure you don't make the same mistakes twice, because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, win condition, step 1, part 1, don't die level 1. That is, without a doubt...
Or blow both summoners level 1.
Yeah, that would definitely be a great start to this game for the side of Lourdes, and it would actually give them the potential to win out through this bot lane, because if you do have pressure on this bottom portion of the map, if Evan RL and Dean are never actually able to just held an advantage over you, you can take so much off of that. Hyami can play through the bot side of that jungle. All Arrow is freed up to maybe roam to the bot side, maybe control that bot side jungle as well, and like that, you can choke Columbia College out of so many of these resources, and still, with no true AP mid laner, with Gangplank in the top lane, and Jhin is their EDC, their mid-game teamfight 5-on-5 doesn't look that convincing. So if you get to that point while still holding a fairly decent advantage, Lourdes could just look to take the match.
This is what I want to see from them, is them holding their advantage, because this is now going to be the 4th game that we've witnessed on CSL between Columbia College and Lourdes, and so far every single game, Columbia College has been the benefactor of the early game.
That isn't not entirely true with the early game. Every single game, I am not even going to try to contest you on the fact that Columbia College just rips it apart, but every single time we see these two together before today, it was Lourdes taking home the early game. They found the advantages, especially between the coordination between All Arrow and Hyami. They're able to find out kills. They're able to exploit Julian, but last game, they just never got to that point.
Well, I could have sworn that it was just Lourdes finishing these games before 25 minutes in the past, wasn't it?
Huh?
Maybe my memory is a little bit hazy. It's okay. It happens when you get old, you know?
Yeah.
You start getting old like me and Pekka's.
All Arrow.
But All Arrow going very aggressive on a Julian. Woo! Might be able to get the kill. One more auto, unfortunately, doesn't get it, but will force him back.
Yeah, and this is exactly what you want to see. Corky can't do too much in the early game, but All Arrow pushing his advantage so early on certainly will help out the squad who has really struggled this match to find those winning lanes.
Exactly, and this is something that's going to be nice. I want to see how Lourdes are going to be able to bounce off of that, especially Hyami and All Arrow, if they can start going for the aggression on the books. I keep putting this pressure, because Julian actually didn't even back. He just popped his pots and wants to stay in as long as possible and not expend his TP.
And that would definitely help out with Bucks. If the thing here is, if Julian was to back, that means Buck's jungle is completely open around the mid lane. Hyami could go in, invade, get those wards down, as he already has on the wolves, and this is already a great adaptation from game number 1. And I mean, speaking of adaptations, Lourdes finally have a shoving bot lane.
Have a shoving bot lane. Caitlyn Karma, something we used to see quite some time ago. Not sure why it ever fell off. I mean, you always can get the shove, and you can always make sure to punish someone who's early game, such as Jhin.
Yeah, normally whenever Caitlyn is meta, you will have Karma riding alongside. Definitely depends on whether the bruisers are in the top lane or whether you have the big, beefy tanks, but when all the stars align, that bot lane will get stuff done.
It's really nice to see, but gotta make sure that they're not being punished, because when you shove too far, you can easily be ganked, especially for a Buckzak on this Olaf. Probably once he gets towards the level 6, or even before then. He's got the axes already. He's a pretty effective ganker at the earlier stages, much better than I'd say the Skarner is.
Oh yeah, before 6, you mean you hit one of those axes, if they do not have an escape, if they do not have a flash, they are not going anywhere. And Hyami, though, on the bottom side, trying to get something done, but it's not going to find it.
It's still a big change from game 1, where we didn't really see him at all for the first 10 minutes of the game. This time he is attempting to get places. He is attempting to try to see if he can find some sort of pressure into these lanes.
Certainly so, and I mean, it's definitely the right way to think about it, but I mean, trying to get Morgana lane as your ball lane's pushing, it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So we'll have to find other ways of actually staying ahead in this matchup, but certainly can't hit him too hard for how he's doing early. Definitely is starting to get taken advantage of just a little bit around where the vision game is being placed. Like, that entire top side of the map is basically in control for Columbia College, but still plenty of room for Hyami to move throughout this matchup.
A lot of the lanes shoving in for Lourdes. Definitely a stark difference from before, where I think it was only All Arrow who was able to shove in Julian consistently. The only lane that was truly winning was that mid lane, but now bot lane seems like it's doing pretty well. Has a sizable CS lead over Evan RL for Homecoming.
And part of that also is just the itemization too is so in tune with just winning out the bottom lane. They don't want to be at risk at all of getting engaged on or losing a fight. You have the Doran shield coming out for Homecoming on a very aggressive champion. He wants to make sure that he takes absolutely no damage in that lane. Also, the coin on Artemis instead of the Spell Thief means that they're looking for that earlier Sightstone. They don't want to take time risking for that Spell Thieves. Yummy!
Oh, Bucksack, gotta be careful. That is something about Rek'Sai. She's an amazing duelist and honestly great at invading. Surprised that we didn't see Yami more into the jungle of Bucksack, but does get the flash and forces them out.
Doesn't want to burn the flash just yet, and honestly, maybe these little... Oh, flash in!
Oh, flashed in, but the Justice Punch was there in time, trying to see if he can keep himself alive with the taunt. The Idol Duran didn't connect, but it would keep him alive, and flash plus the ult down for all arrow.
And these are just plays that are just barely missing their marks, and Lourdes, they're still in a very comfortable spot, don't get me wrong, but they do need to convert on one of these eventually.
Gotta find something. Gotta really try to abuse maybe Bucksack for not really going for any aggressive plays. Maybe go on to Julian, go for the dive. Yami on this Rek'Sai, great duelist, great at diving in the early game. Pretty much just very strong at putting pressure in the early stages of the match.
Even on top of that, this pick is something he is incredibly confident on. Yami, as a player, used to just spam the ever-living heck out of the Rek'Sai in solo queue, so the second this guy gets to play it, he is just overcome with joy, and he usually does show why he is so he's so confident on it. But even so, like we said before, the champion itself is so good at enabling a lot of these early game plays. You can just make the weirdest ganks possible with the tunnel ability. You can trade tower aggro with your ultimate as well, but you have to choose exactly when you want to get that rolling, because he is falling behind a pretty sizable margin. Just on the CS game, gold game about 50, so nothing too crazy, but still looking to come back in this one.
Yeah, but that's made up by the rest of his team, especially All Arrow and Homecoming, who have been really pressuring their lanes. Evan RL, he's behind in CS, and this is something that we don't usually get to talk about too much. Is he's usually this guy who's the shining light, the dominating force for Colombia. I mean, sure, it's an all-star roster for Colombia, but Evan RL especially.
And while it is incredibly true that every single game you're looking at Evan RL to just take over the lead, you do also have to have some respect that he is going against the Caitlyn plus Karma. Any ADC or support player who plays solo queue will know just the pure terror that is. So certainly keep an eye on him, because now where he can really show his just aggressiveness and his potential as an ADC is how close does he stay in this CS game. Ooh, Dean.
Nice dark binding coming in from Dean, but it seems that Evan wants to leave. He wanted to get back home, but Dean was on a different wavelength than him. They weren't communicating that well, and it cost the flash of the support.
And that is a big summoner spell to burn, because that will give Yami a new target on this map. I mean, sure, Bucksack hasn't had the flash for a little bit while, but he does have the Ragnarok to get away from an engage. But if you line up a great fight on this bottom portion of the map, especially with all arrows having complete control of this mid lane, you can finally find an advantage. But
they want to go on All Arrow. They don't connect the flash taunt on to All Arrow, but it doesn't matter. When you commit 3 things just to get the kill, they get first blood for Colombia, and not just that, onto the Cassiopeia.
And that is a little bit of disrespect coming out from All Arrow. Sure, he's winning that lane, but you just don't win the 2v.
So far.
Yeah, the 2v1 situation pushed up quite a bit with absolutely no vision of Bucksack, and like you said before, it doesn't even matter if the flash misses, but now once again, these are just options opening up for Lourdes. You have a flash down on the support, you have a flash down in the mid lane, you gotta find something.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that the flash taunt didn't really connect from Julian, didn't really have the best of flashes there, but it didn't matter. They were still able to pick up the kill at the end of the day, and when you get it onto All Arrow, I think that's gonna be something that Lourdes, they have to recuperate on how they want to play, because he's been consistently pushing, consistently shoving Julian under the tower. Now he's got to be fearful for his life that is going to just be rinse and repeat for Colombia.
As long as Lourdes are able to protect All Arrow, he will have the pushing lane. That's just the nature of this matchup. Cassiopeia, Snake instead of Scissor Lady, but the Cassiopeia in the lane just puts down so much in terms of skirmishing potential and so much in terms of pushing potential that the only way you actually beat her is by either punching her harder in the face with a stronger champion, or you bring in the jungler. As long as you can control that enemy jungle, control where Bucksack is able to go around that mid lane, they're going to have a winning mid, but That's now up to Hiyami to keep his mid laner safe.
Julian getting poked out again by All Arrow. Like I said, not too surprising, even though there is a lot of magic resist already coming in for the Galio to try to see if he can keep himself alive, but honestly, you gotta get that adaptive helm to really be safe.
Hiyami's going in.
Yeah, they're going in, but the Idol Duran dodged away by the Void Rush. Josh's punch to knock up Hiyami, so they didn't even pick up the kill. And Julian, he might trade his life, all needs one more, but he doesn't actually get it. It's so devastating for Lourdes. It looked like they were finally going to be able to turn it around onto Julian, but he survives with a sliver of health. And then bot lane, Evan RL using their curtain call to zone away Homecoming and Artemis.
And that's got to feel so incredibly horrible for the Lourdes side. They finally tried to convert on one of those advantages they made throughout the laning phase, but this is the same issue you've been seeing every single match versus Columbia College. They can't convert, and certainly a few things missing there really just put the nail in the coffin. All Arrow missing the Petrifying Gaze really just sealed the deal.
Missing the Petrifying Gaze, not really being able to solidify the kill on Julian. I don't know if these are just mistakes necessarily or just bad circumstances coming in for Lourdes.
I mean, I once again, I love this phrase, but it's a little column A, a little column B is certainly the amount of potential opportunities hasn't been that high. They've only gotten those 2 summoner spells off as of late in that mid lane and in the bottom side of the map, but even on top of that, they have the opportunity, they just can't convert on it right now, so it's something you need to keep your eye on going on forward, but I think the bigger difference for me, look at the mid lane and look at the CS, not the CS, but the vision score disparity.
Yeah, it really is Julian going more into that supportive role, trying to help out Buckzak so that he can go easily into the mid lane and get onto All Arrow. Well, All Arrow has been greedy. He wants to pressure out Julian as much as possible.
Certainly so, and I mean, the aggressive mid lane works as long as you can stay safe, and that's where the criticism for this vision score does come in for me, because he's playing aggressively, he's just not defending himself, and that can work sometimes. Like, my favorite example is old school TSM that was literally just Bjergsen in the 4 wards, because it worked because Bjergsen is just able to win the laning phase from his pure mechanical skill from the picks they gave him, but then it was up to the rest of the team to keep him safe, and Arrow is thinking, unfortunately, that he's Bjergsen, and Hiyami isn't quite living up to the role Sven Skaren of being the ward.
Well, I mean, right now, All Arrow, it's living up a little bit to the earlier parts of the season, 2018.
Week 1 Bjergsen, oof.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he is trying to be Bjergsen, just the wrong time and wrong year.
That's certainly so. Got to get the classic rookie Bjergsen in, but even
Copenhagen Wolves, we're going far back into our time. Yeah.
Hiyami's going pretty darn aggressive in that jungle. Still is yet to have an impact. Yeah, he's yet to have an impact this entire set so far, and
he's tried.
He's sticking around. They see him.
It's him, but look at what's happened. They already put Homecoming and Artemis into the top lane. They've tried to see if they can preempt a lane swap to see if they can take first brick and get themselves a little bit extra gold. And since they do find themselves behind, Cannon Barrage will discourage Lord from continuing.
And this is actually a really smart play coming out from Lourdes, but they just aren't able to execute it in time, especially against a Gangplank ultimate. And they know right now that Homecoming and Artemis have no advantage from just winning out the bottom side of the map. They haven't gotten damage on this tower. They haven't been able to facilitate any plays around the bottom portion of the map at all, so might as well just try to make a rush for that top lane tower. Unfortunately, they're not going to find it, but they will try the exact same thing now on the bottom side.
They wanted to see if they can do that, but it was a good call from Columbia. Could see that the moment they didn't see Homecoming and Artemis, they're like, wait a minute, they're going back. We're pretty sure they're going to go right back to regular lane, so let us have our top lane. Let's have Mr. Stumpy head back up to where he belongs.
I mean, Hiyami's on the correct side of the map. They need to be careful about if Julian can roam down for this, because right now, Homecoming and Artemis, they haven't been seen just yet.
No, they haven't. 5 members from Lourdes looking to try to take down this tower. Evan, RL, and Dean back off. They want to seed this tower and instead maybe get 2 towers in response. Top lane and mid are both shoving with the Rift Herald popped in mid. I
mean, good to get first tower, but how much are you going to lose as a result, especially with Gangplank in that top portion of the map? TP's going out. That's a big one because Misty Stumpy has the teleport and they're looking for the Infernal. Lourdes, they might have just gone way too aggressive on that one.
Honestly, they should have just turned for this Infernal. They could have easily gotten that. 5 members were there in the bot side of the map for Lourdes, but ceding over that objective could be a little bit of that hindrance towards their scaling.
It's definitely going to be very rough not getting the Infernal Drake, as Lourdes still looking to play the team fight. Would have loved the extra AP/80 on the Cassiopeia, on the Kaylin, and the big thing is that it is scaling. It is based off of how much total AD and AP you have, so it's not going to be too impactful right now, but 35 minutes, 40, if we get to that point, you're definitely going to feel it, especially on Stumpy, especially on Evan RL, who, I mean, is like the poster child for ADCs who want that Infernal Drake.
I remember seeing a chart, I think someone actually showed that when you look at the Infernal Drake, the only one who truly benefits from it is Evan RL on this gen, because, and I'm talking just Evan RL, by the way, no one else on.
Yes. No one else in League of Legends.
Yeah, only Evan RL, because he's that strong with it.
Yeah.
It's that brutal. It's unfortunate for Lourdes, though.
Yeah, and this starts to feel like the evolution of Lourdes' gameplay, where they started off making that big mistake in level 1. Now they come forward finally with a great macro rotation, but aren't really prepared for the consequences coming off the back end. Good thing, though, they were able to stop Misty Stumpy in the top lane. They did concede that dragon, so that will be the overall cost for it. But in the end, they do trade 1 tower for 1 tower and grab the first brick gold. So that win condition of just scaling on up, getting that mid-game team fight, it's still on track.
Yeah, they still have the possibility, and if they find out Misty Stumpy, it could work even better. Here comes a Cannon Barrage TP to try to see if they can keep him alive, but the ace in the hole is going to come through, even though Hyami does pick up the kill. And Julian completed his TP. He's under the tower, but he'll trade Hyami as well. Bucksack, here comes the Ragnarok. He wants to get onto Artemis with the heroic entrance to do a little bit extra work, as Evan RL is able to snipe out Artemis. All arrow fighting with Morgana, trying to see if he can get a little bit more poke. Here comes the cleanse to get him out of there, but the poison ticking onto Dean. Ooh. Not enough. Flash for flash. Homecoming wasn't able to get in range of the auto attack. Lots of low health bars from Columbia, so they cannot really effectively keep this tower alive. They might have to back up and cede this over towards Lourdes.
No real engage options available. All arrow, no petrifying gaze, no ultimate for chemo, but yeah, everyone is just so incredibly low. Misty Stumpy, he's back though.
Yeah, he is, and he never used teleport before, and with him up, this actually could keep the tower alive. I'm kind of surprised that they weren't punished for their low health bars on Columbia, but Lourdes didn't feel confident enough looking for these dives. Still, honestly, they should get at least more damage onto the tower, if not get it completely.
Once they lost Hyami in that fight, they really lose a lot of their ability to pressure some of these advantages after the fight, and that was kind of the 1 step forward, the 2 step back from Lourdes. They got that first kill. There was no real need for Hyami, especially, to chase that far under the tower for Julian, and once he's down, all arrow, he's still roaming up from the mid lane. They're just not ready to fight, but they're going to go again.
Want to see if they can dive onto Misty Stumpy, but he's pretty healthy. Not necessarily the person you want to get. Finally, the tower down low, the objective that they wanted to, but they got to get it out of here. They had to pop cleanse on Artemis as he was getting hit by the axes from Bucksack. But all in all, it seems that finally, Lourdes, they got what they wanted.
I mean, I'm not quite sold yet on the triple cleanse, just bottom half the map right now, but it definitely is coming in handy. If Artemis does not have the cleanse right there, there's a very strong possibility that with Ragnarok, Buck just runs him right on down in that top lane. So, certainly they're saving a little bit. And now, with that second tower, with taking the aggressive approach to this macro game, they are in the lead. And, I mean, we compare Columbia College to the SKT strategist, wait for the opponent to do something wrong all the time. And this is how you beat the SKT strat. You just keep going with the plays.
Just fight, 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 go, go, go. And this is what we've been wanting to see out of Lourdes, especially from Hyami, this early aggressive champion. That's pretty much the style you need to be able to facilitate consistently.
Oh, certainly so. And now with the last T1 standing in the mid lane for Columbia College, Lourdes is really trying to push this one home.
Hey, they might as well try to take down these objectives, get more gold for themselves, but they always got to be careful of the cannon barrage. It can easily dissuade them from their advances. Not just that, but Evan RL, meanwhile, in the top lane, was able to take down another tower to even it out 2-2.
But just like that, there's not too much left on the map for the side, for Lourdes to actually pick up here, and I mean, they are scaling up quite well. You saw how much damage All Arrow is able to put down in these fights just with the Seraphs, and he's already working on the Haunting Guys as well. One item completed being the Static Shiv on the Homecoming, and once he gets that Infinity Edge as well, the side of Lourdes, they're going to be as strong as they're honestly going to get for quite a while. All Arrow really just skyrocketing up at this point, but a Homecoming, you do have to keep a little bit of an eye on him, as unless he's able to keep getting these kills, keep keeping this CS advantage, he will eventually fall behind.
Not just because of the items, but also because he can consistently get run down by Bucksack on this Olaf, who's probably going to want to always run at that Caitlyn, run at All Arrow, so that they're not really doing too much.
Certainly not, but everything's just taking a nice breather at the moment. Next dragon will be the Ocean Drake up in about 30 seconds, so that's certainly plenty for Lourdes to be preparing for, but they're not moving any vision into that area. Going back to that topic we hit on earlier, the vision game for Lourdes does seem to be falling behind.
Does seem to be falling behind a little bit, especially because Bucksack, he's been on that path, making sure to take out as many wards as possible, but look at Lourdes, what they just did. As you were saying that, they put down a giant line of vision in the topside river.
That is certainly true, and with all that vision, they are going to be feeling really confident to move over, take this Ocean Drake, because now they're feeling really well put together. They're almost on those spikes. They're ready to take some of these fights off of Columbia College, but it's this level of consistent fighting, consistent gameplay the Lords need to keep up, and if even it falls for just a little bit, things can go so far down.
I was really curious to see if Columbia were going to go for the risky call of going right onto the Baron, maybe thinking that Lords were going for some recall, trying to see if they can spend some of the gold that was in their pockets, but alas, we didn't see that. They were dissuaded by the fact that the Scuttle Crab was in control of Lords.
And with all that, you have to also keep in mind that this is a very slow Baron for the side of Columbia College, if they actually want to go for it, because, I mean, Jin has a lot of damage. He doesn't do consistent DPS very well, though. Julian on the Galio just doesn't nuke down a Baron, and on the other side, if All Arrow plus Homecoming are given even like a fraction of a second on this Baron, that will be one quick Baron.
Yeah, especially All Arrow. Cassiopeia is so great at taking down those objectives. Pretty much the machine gun style. Won't really stand up too well. I guess worms aren't that great compared to a snake, after all.
Of course.
Hey, I'm just saying, if you had to choose something to have on your side as an animal to fight for you, would you choose a giant purple worm?
Can
or would
I
you
get like
choose a snake?
Can I get like an Alaskan bullworm, or
No,
is it
no
only
Alaskan
okay?
bullworm too.
Probably
No,
the snake, honestly.
I mean, those only live in Bikini Bottom after all, but now gotta watch this game instead, because that was the Predator with the Righteous Glory popped from Bucksack. And honestly, Lords, a great job at disengaging that. Homecoming was never really threatened. He just said, nope, I'm jumping over this wall. Peace out, fools.
But a huge part of that was the flash from both Homecoming and Artemis are down. And sure, I do think that at this point in the time, All Arrow is a much larger threat to the Columbia College team. But that is the potential now for that play. Ragnarok is on a much lower cooldown than a flash. You get a Ragnarok, you get a Galio heroic entrance, and our Homecoming might not walk out of that fight alive.
Bot lane, we're seeing Misty Stumpy and Chemo fighting a little bit, but this is getting to the point of the game where Misty Stumpy should win out. He has the true damage coming in from his passive, but just being gangplanked. He's starting to get these items. Serap's Gauge completed with an serrated Dirk as well. He's really wanting to go for that damage.
He likes damage. That is the most truthful thing we can say right now. And a big part of this match, a big part of these competitions is Columbia College definitely is lacking quite a bit in the teamfight department. That's where Misty Stumpy comes in. In the late game, he is their late game assurance policy. At 6 items, he will just completely obliterate All Arrow and Homecoming. So, Lords, even though they are going to feel pretty confident playing this very slow game for the next few minutes, they are on some sort of a clock. Misty Stumpy will make them have a very, very bad time in these late game fights.
This is very true, but at the same time, you gotta remember, it's Caitlyn Cassiopeia versus Gangplank at this point, so that's what you want to go for. But man, that is a fast Viking. There's no way Artemis can outrun that.
Not a single chance, and That's once again just following up on those summoner spells burnt before, but do keep in mind it's only the Karma support. There's certainly enough from the side of Lourdes to keep this Baron alive, but still, on a timer, this is not how you want to be playing. You want to be proactively making these fights work.
And Columbia College, they feel
Scion.
4v5, but you gotta be careful about static shift damage. It might have been nerfed towards the minions, but definitely not towards champions.
Misty Stumpy is able to pick up the bot tower, and he is a legitimate split push threat. A big portion of the issue with Lourdes, and especially why I was very interested in the Karma pick especially, is that Chemo has to maintain a large amount of presence on top of the gangplank. Otherwise, there is just so much room for the split push game to keep on going, and without Scion with this team, they don't have any real engage. In the jungle, I've completely forgotten that the Rek'Sai is not a good engage option anymore. He is an assassin. He likes to jump in either on a single target.
Hey, hold on. Did you just say he for Rek'Sai?
Oh my god.
Come on, man. You gotta be sensitive about her lovely needs. Please.
Oh no.
I will not handle this.
Oh god. Well, either way, the champion known as Rek'Sai is not really the optimal way to engage anymore. You can only knock up one member, and you are just so much more focused on getting more damage in the laning phase. So you're not quite going to survive long after you engage anyway. So it's kind of this paradox where Lourdes needs to bring Scion to the mid lane to start the fight, but they also need to keep him on the side to stop Misty Stumpy. And the only true counter, per se, to this strategy is just make one decisive call. If you bring the Scion mid quickly to get that fight off, don't give much time over to Misty Stumpy for the split push. If that works, you then force yourself into a 5v4 situation where, yeah, you take that Baron, you take mid lane tower, but ooh, hero play comes up short.
Yeah, that was the attempted hero play, it looks like. And I mean, Dean was there with the Black Shield to keep FNRL safe anyways, and he was walking back towards his tower, so yeah.
And that's both the flash and the petrifying gaze gone from Olero, and with the lack of engage options, those are two very important spells and two very important just options gone from Lourdes.
It's going to give a lot of the vision pressure back over to Columbia around this Baron. Lourdes were doing a good job at maintaining that, but the fact that Olero didn't have that anymore, so they weren't really that threatened of being 4-man stunned if that actually came to be. Columbia College were very confident stepping up towards that Baron and clearing out a lot of Lourdes' vision.
Yeah, I mean, every single Jin main in the crowd, they're going to be grinning after this one because that's the second Infernal Drag picked up by Columbia College, and FNRL could not be having a better day.
Not at all. He's going to be so happy. I'm ready to see those crits, that fourth and final shot coming out of FNRL, especially onto Homecoming. I want to see how much damage it actually can do.
It's going to do a lot of damage. Like,
it's going to be nice.
A lot of damage.
It'll be funny. Well, he's got the rapid fire cannon too, so just imagine that. He just got that fourth shot. If it's the rapid fire cannon 1-2 with the Infernal, I'll feel bad for Homecoming, but he'll die pretty fast.
Without a doubt. And interesting build decisions coming out right now, especially from Homecoming. Has opted, it looks like, with the Brawler's Glove, that he will be going for that third crit item before he goes for any sort of armor penetration, and that could definitely hurt a little bit against Julian, a little bit against Bucksack, but he's looking for the rush to damage right now, and hopefully looking to deal with FNRL and Dean, but I'm not really convinced that this third item is going to be enough to turn around these fights, and I think Lourdes, at some point, they just need to take it.
They need to take something, they need to do something that's more than just flash Petrifying Gaze onto a Jhin that's not even facing you. They gotta start putting the, not even just the vision around the Baron, maybe start it up, force the TPs out of Columbia.
I mean, there is a split push pressure on the bottom portion of the map from Misty Stumpy, so any play you do has to be pretty quick, but Columbia College, they're free to do whatever they want to right now. There is no pressure being applied, and oh, here's the pressure right there.
Oh, that's the pressure, but not from Lourdes. It's from Columbia. The flash coming in, but that's the crit damage we wanted to see coming in from Evan RL. That was a half health Karma obliterated.
And I mean, right once that Olaf starts running on in, no one gets out alive. And once again, that's only the support going down, so Lourdes should theoretically have enough to stop this Baron, but Will they even get into it in time?
Let's see how fast this goes down. You talked about it before, that Columbia College don't necessarily have the best Baron taking ability, but that doesn't seem to be what they want to do. They want to fight. They take out all arrow, and that is someone who's great at wave clearing, especially taking out the Baron. So now, with the 5v3, Columbia, they want to go for more. They're bloodthirsty. They want to find the members of Lourdes.
All Arrow is the team fight from Lourdes. He cannot be the first one to that pit. You have Chemo, you have the Scion, but he just gets locked up, and without that cleanse, he's just left to dead.
Exactly. It's very unfortunate for him. Not going to be able to survive for very long. Not even having... He was having such a good game early on, but now he's finding himself 0-3 on this Cassiopeia. Hasn't been able to have that same sort of spark that he had in the earlier stages.
Important part being, though, that with at least that noble sacrifice coming out of All Arrow, let's call it for now, they were able to stop the Baron, and that is what's going to enable Columbia College to really start pressuring down these inhibitors. And by the time they get this Baron, Stumpy is just going to be unleashed. Triforce completed, has the Infinity Edge, has the Stairs Gauge, and it has a Ghost Blade just for good measure. I mean, you thought that Evan RL did damage. Just wait till Misty Stumpy hits on Artemis.
I'm gonna feel really bad for Artemis.
Oh my god.
He just wants to put shields on the people. He just wants to help out.
This is absolutely nutty. So not only is the cleanse still up there for Artemis, he's also picked up the QSS.
Oh yeah, I saw that a while ago, and he used that actually when he got picked off. Not the last fight, but the fight before that. But, I mean, it doesn't really help when you're dead. You know, you can't really cleanse or QSS death.
An item I would love to see coming out of Artemis would be a Shirelia's Revive. I mean, that is an item that just came back on this patch. It gives you the old buff of just speeding up everyone, and I mean, against something like an Olaf, how do you beat an Olaf? You just go faster than him.
You know, you're not wrong. It's the good old gas. We gotta turn on the gas tonight.
Exactly.
You gotta make sure that you're going fast, but oof, Evan RL taking a lot of damage, but this is the engage, the re-engage on to Homecoming. Lots of damage. He's finished off so quickly, even with the heroic entrance. There's no way to exit for Artemis. The bot lane gone for Lourdes. 5v3. They don't even need Misty Stumpy. He's looking for kills in the back line as they chase down All Arrow. He's got to flash away. Scion trying to see if he can do anything to disengage. A lot of damage on
Petrifying still up.
It is, and they can go for that if they want, but it doesn't matter. Chemo chasing on to Evan RL. See if we can finish him off, but the TP from Misty Stumpy will discourage Lourdes from going in. They are trying to delay the Baron as much as humanly possible.
3 different members on 3 different sides. This is so risky for Lourdes.
Ooh, that was a good amount of damage coming in from the barrels as they try to go for the re-engage. That's the petrifying gaze on the 2 members. Can they turn it around? Can they survive? They can't, because the winds of war really just tear apart the Cassiopeia. Chemo, he's pretty tanky, but the teleport in from Artemis. Not sure you wanted to do that. You just sacrificed your own life with already losing Chemo as well. Sure, Yami got Dina in the backline, but does it really matter when the rest of your team has fallen apart?
Short answer, no, not at all. And I mean, there are still 2 members up. Yami could look for a steal because there is no smite available on Buck, but he's got no smite either.
Gotta try to go for the hero play, but Julian just gonna disengage and go for the taunt onto Homecoming. Yami, a lot of damage onto Evan RL, but it won't help out when he doesn't land the Prey Seeker, so he can't keep up the chase. The Ace, the Baron, Columbia in the driver's seat like usual.
And that is just the accumulation of Lourdes refusing to pull the trigger for so long. Columbia College find 2 absolutely immaculate engages time after time, and now they are in complete control of this match, and the only person who honestly can stand up to them right now, All Arrow, is so far behind. Homecoming just isn't able to kite around these fights. He's jumped on consistently. All Arrow is usually the last one alive, but just isn't getting any help. The front line's not being there. No one's being there.
Well, and that's gonna be a triple Infernal Drake, so we thought double was helpful for Evan RL and Misty Stumpy. Well, how do you beat that? Of course, it's gonna be the triple.
You know what, just throw on the Elder Dragon right now. Just give this man as much AD as physically possible. You have to start tracking exactly how much is. He is already up to 780. He's got
780. Damn it.
And, of course, most importantly, has the control ward as well.
Hey, you know what? The control ward, I think, adds the most combat effectiveness stats, if you ask me.
Exactly.
vision. That's what you need. How are you supposed to hit people when you can't
You need to
see them?
see them. Exactly.
Exactly.
Oh, wait, I didn't even realize this. Look at how low that mid lane tower is. 23 HP. A strong gust of wind might be able to take this tower.
I don't think Winds of War work that way.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine.
Are you sure?
That's...
Alright, we'll have to test this later.
Yeah. Of course.
But right now, it looks like Colombia, they're just gonna siege up. It's pretty easy for them to do so as well. Sure, there are no banner of commands, but honestly, it doesn't really matter when you can easily dive. You can easily jump onto all arrow and homecoming with Olaf and Julian. You don't really need the power of the banner minion to really help you out in that.
No, and the Baron plus banner of command has been nerfed as of late, but here comes Sion, baby!
Onslaught, and it's going to be Dean, who's the reciprocant of all of the hurt. Evan RL continues to kite back. Chemo, with the Gargoyle Stoneplate, is doing a bit to just kite out as well as he can, but Misty Stumpy in the back line, he finishes off Yami. Chemo as well, going to go down with that little tower. Maybe you're right, the Gust of Winds did do what they needed to do to finish it off. But it's a double kill for Misty Stumpy that really stands out as Columbia College continue the press and look like they want to keep that going.
Evan RL took out not even half, a majority of Homecoming and Artemis HP bars from about 2 screens away. This Jhin is unstoppable right now.
Taunt onto Homecoming, but that's gonna be the Zonia's under the tower. All Arrow doing its best to shut down Misty Stumpy, but he sacrificed his own life as well as Homecoming's with the Nexus Tower still up. Not for long, that is. It's gonna be, finally, Columbia College finishing off this game, not quite as definitively as they did in Game 1, but still, they take it and get 2-0 for Columbia.
Yeah, and that game was